This game is rated E for everyone. Shovel Knight, the next generation 8-bit gaming that redeems Mega Man. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of RRPG Reviews. Are you ready to go on an adventure? I know I am. Are you ready to go find some treasure? I know I am. Are you ready to go slay some dragons, some other knights, as well as a witch who is bringing disorder upon our own land? I know I am. And some of you may be wondering, why do I have a shovel right here? Well, why not? Shovel Knight is a game developed by the new independent studio Yacht Club Games. These are guys who previously worked at WayForward Technologies to create their own studio where they wish to create their own games that they want. And their first game, Shovel Knight, is the ambassador to their message. This game comes out as a 2D side-scrolling platformer that borrows influences from retro franchises such as Mega Man, Castlevania, Super Mario Bros. 3, and DuckTales on the NES with their gameplay mechanics. But this game brings in newer things not seen before from yesteryear. Before I get on with my review of the horrendous TMNT Out of the Shadows, I need to at least talk about this game, because it is one that I have waited for a very long time to be released. Did Yacht Club Games succeed on their promise from their Kickstarter campaign? Well, let us steal thy shovels and dig into it, fellow knights. Once upon a time, a medieval land was held at peace thanks to the combined efforts of two brave adventurers named Shovel Knight and Shield Knight. Not only would they fight alongside each other to protect order, they would journey across the land in hopes to locate mysterious and hidden treasure. However, their time together seems like it comes to an abrupt end when both of them explore the Tower of Fate, in which they are submitted by the evil power of a cursed amulet. As the man with the shovel awakens, he sees that the Tower of Fate is sealed, and his beloved Shield Knight is believed to have perished. Grieving at the loss of the person he loves, Shovel Knight gives up his job with adventuring and goes into seclusion. During his absence, a wicked sorceress known as the Enchantress rises in power, with spreading her evil across the land. Her power becomes so great that she takes command of the 8 members of the Order of No Quarter to continue her reign of terror. Knowing that the land is in great peril, Shovel Knight bravely takes up his shovel and ventures toward the Tower of Fate in hopes to subdue the Enchantress as well as rescue his beloved Shield Knight. A new adventure begins for our cerulean hero. As the plot shows, the beginning tells us a backstory that builds up to the plot of this game. NES games weren't that heavy into storytelling because of the limitations of games back during the 80s, but even the simplest stories were still enjoyable, to which many have become very attached to. Games like Ninja Gaiden, Castlevania, The Legend of Zelda, and so many others were minimal to their stories, but became enjoyable in the long run. Shovel Knight is no different, as its basic story is a tribute to the past games of yore. However, it seems that the cerulean hero's journey is bound to be one where justice must be served to those who betrayed their oath, as well as the evil Enchantress herself. As I said from before, if you are familiar with 8-bit games like Mega Man, Castlevania, Super Mario Bros. 3, Ninja Gaiden, and many of those others that presented themselves with fun and challenge, Shovel Knight is that love letter to people like me and you. The game's main premise is that of a side-scrolling platformer where you play as Shovel Knight by going through numerous levels in order to reach the Tower of Fate to defeat the Enchantress and rescue his beloved Shield Knight. As you go through the stages, you can run around and do all sorts of things like jumping, attacking, climbing up ladders, discovering secrets, collecting gold from all the gems you pick up, and dueling with bosses. The biggest innovation in this game is the shovel mechanics. Most hidden stages will have you finding secrets that hold money and other goodies from dirt piles and secluded walls where you can access newer areas for hidden loot. As you go through the main levels to do all that stuff, you'll end up fighting enemies that range from dragons, skeletons, rats, slimes, and anything imaginable that fits in a fantasy setting. Along the way, you'll end up finding checkpoints that you can return to when you die within a stage, and you'll end up dying quite a lot because of the game's large emphasis on trial and error. However, most of it is a cakewalk if you know the enemy's placement and the different patterns within their attacks. Some of the more difficult parts resort to having to use the downward thrust to spam hits on even the most deadliest foes. The checkpoints within the game also serve as a means to destroy them if you want the extra loot added into your currency. Do that, and you won't be able to return to that checkpoint upon losing a life, so there is a bit of risk versus reward added into the mix. Following the tradition of Mega Man, power-ups in the form of relics are present, and they give you abilities that are very similar to what you would see from older franchises in this game, while Shovel Knight innovates with its own ideas that have never been done before in a 2D side-scrolling platformer from yesteryear. They can be quite expensive to afford if you don't have enough gold to buy them out, so take note that before you enter a stage that you have enough funds in order to obtain all the most essential elements in the game. I'll tell you, when you visit Chester within every stage, that man is quite a gold digger. Oh crap, I knew this wasn't going to dig by. Oh! By the time you reach the end, you'll end up fighting a member of the Order of No Quarter. Defeat them, and you'll unlock more of a path to reach your destination. Speaking of which, the world map feature is a huge inspiration from Super Mario Bros. 3, as you can travel between the different stages to traverse them and move forward, towns to buy upgrades and learn new information on the bosses, bonus levels to obtain more gold and bigger rewards, and random encounter stages where you fight bosses or complete a mini level for some gold. There's plenty of variety in the gameplay, so you will never get bored whenever something new will pop up from time to time. Just be careful of the risks you will run into, because you'll end up dying over and 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 Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, please forgive me. Let's move on. One would think that Yacht Club Games would make a game that is up to par with games by today's standards, but they opted in for a retro approach with Shovel Knight. The visuals within the levels, characters, and objects are represented in 8-bit sprites that resemble that of NES and Sega Master System games. However, much of the detail within the animation, parallax scrolling, and particle effects are some stuff that couldn't be done on an NES, as most people believe to be the case. I haven't seen so many NES games that have done parallax scrolling, or having that rain effect within the Tower of Fate's gate. Or even take a look at Trouple's Pond, with the waves of the water between the foreground and the background. That's something that the NES couldn't do, as games in this day and age that go for that 8-bit approach can easily break that mold. Yacht Club Games brings justice to that feat in numerous ways. Character designs are excellent, with each of them having unique attributes to showcase their personalities, such as Tinker Knight being so small to do anything menacing, except for having a huge mech to do his bidding whenever a fight occurs. That's obviously a reference to Dr. Wily and Mega Man, if you hadn't caught on really quickly. NPCs hardly have detail, while the plot-centric characters shine in that category. That's standard for games back then, and even to now. The overworld map is something like you would see from Super Mario Bros. 3, while the towns are something you would see from Zelda 2 or Castlevania 2. Random boss encounters are like what you would see from Mario 3, and the enemy gold collecting stages are like something you would see from Zelda 2. There's so many inspirations within the level design that it makes the overall presentation a masterpiece, and it truly does. Finally, the biggest kicker that strikes the earth with great merit is Shovel Knight's original soundtrack, composed by Vert himself, Jake Kaufman. Not only does he put on his next big performance after Double Dragon Neon, but he is accompanied by the original composer of Mega Man herself, Manami Matsume, where she helps out with a couple of tracks of her own. The overall composition sounds like something you would hear from Capcom's Alph Lyla music team, as they pretty much did almost every Mega Man soundtrack out there. Some of my favorite themes are Strike the Earth, The Adventure Awaits, In the Halls of the Usurper, La Danse Macabre, The Fateful Return, and The Betrayer. Of course, we can't forget about the main theme, as it tells you that this game is bound to be awesome right at the get-go. Like I said, Shovel Knight's overall presentation is a masterpiece. The levels, characters, music, and overall feel has plenty of variety where you will never get bored as to what will happen next. Makes me want to go back and play Mega Man, or hell, I would even go back and play this game even more! After a long journey to put the Order of No Quarter in their place, the Tower of Fate and the Enchantress await our arrival. Upon entering the treacherous tower, you are greeted by your rival, Black Knight, as the Shovel Warriors undergo one last battle. Even further within the dungeon, the Order of No Quarter come back to have one final match before the final showdown. And yeah, let me tell you, it was a close fight. Finally, Shovel Knight fights off against the Enchantress, who turns out to be Shield Knight being possessed by the true form of the evil witch. After freeing his beloved from the hands of evil, the two warriors fight gallantly against the true Enchantress to bring honor and justice back to the land. After victory comes about for the two, Shovel Knight ends up being wounded by the uncontrollable blasts of the Enchantress's demise. Shield Knight sacrifices herself to have the man she loves being taken to safety by her request to Black Knight. The Tower of Fate is gone for good, and the people of the land celebrate as a new age of peace has arrived, to where the Order of No Quarter helps the land recover from the tragedy that ensued. At last, Black Knight brings Shovel Knight to his campsite, to where he can rest from the long journey he went through, and bids the hero farewell for the time being. Sometime shortly, Shield Knight actually came out of the Tower of Fate with injuries that aren't fatal, and she joins her beloved by resting next to him under the stars. Their reunion is back, and they all lived happily ever after. Or do they? We may never know if this turns out to be a single game or not. I hope not, as I can see this working out as a great franchise if Yacht Club Games wants to do it right. I gotta be honest, games done by independent studios are very light when it comes to any bonus material. Fortunately, Shovel Knight has plenty of content to go by, as the journey from beginning to end leaves you feeling very satisfied. Some of the traditional things you can acquire on your journey through Shovel Knight are new abilities for your shovel, such as a charge slash, a quick dig for treasure, and a ground spark when you swing your weapon. You are also given the privilege to change the color of your armor, if you feel that the color blue doesn't quite fit the heroic digger. Surprisingly, each armor you equip gives you some unique abilities and other attributes, like the silver armor giving you a charge for your charge slash when doing the downward thrust from 2 times within the air, the purple armor giving Shovel Knight more magic power for his relics, the red armor to decrease the amount of gold lost when losing a life by half, and the gold armor to do acrobatic jumps, just to name a few. Some of them are pretty useful when spelunking through the different levels, while others, such as the golden armor, are just there for the flashy value within the sprite animations. The only downside is that buying the shovel abilities and different armors come at a price, but it will help when you accomplish one of the many feats that you can unlock for yourself. No, not those feats, but achievements if you go by this game's logic. Since the Wii U and 3DS versions don't support trophies or achievements like their competition, Shovel Knight incorporates in-game achievements of their own in the form of feats. Oh, come on, guys! You don't need to be all footsie with me when it comes to this! Oh, jeez, there I go, I did it again. There are a total of 45 of these achievements, with some of them being very easy to obtain, to many that seem downright impossible to pull off without some skill, like not taking damage throughout the entire game to completing it within 1 hour and 30 minutes. Man, this game's nuts. Fear not about trying to get all the achievements within your first playthrough, though, as beating Shovel Knight will give you the option of New Game Plus for your next challenge. Speaking of which, New Game Plus is very challenging in that regard, as you will take double damage from all enemies, and cooked turkeys and platters will mostly be replaced by exploding bombs. Even the checkpoint system is minimized, as there are only 2 to each stage within this game mode, so think of it going back to how Mega Man is supposed to be with the different checkpoints between each level. Finally, some of the other unique surprises to find are Easter eggs, and this game is littered with them, such as the Yacht Club Games logo found in King Knight stage with easy skill. Like I said, independent games hardly have plenty of extra content to keep you satisfied with multiple playthroughs, but Shovel Knight strikes gold when it comes to you finding those little extras. Looking back at Shovel Knight, the game is bound to be known as the first indie title to harken the status of AAA quality. Now, it may seem like it's impossible because of production values being much more cheaper than most of the bigger blockbusters out there, but even the indies need their time to shine very brightly throughout the oversaturation of shooters, sports, MMOs, and party games that have flooded the market for quite some time. Some of the minor annoyances in the game, such as the many cheap deaths, can be overlooked because it doesn't feel frustrating for trying to get past those ridiculously hard parts, as it's all about trial and error. The vast amount of gameplay elements, the music, the difficulty, the presentation, and the overall delivery makes Shovel Knight a masterpiece in 8-bit gaming in modern times. Yacht Club Games certainly was not kidding around when they proclaimed their first title to be the start of the next generation of 8-bit gaming, and they certainly delivered on that promise with flying colors. If you have a Wii U, a 3DS, and PC or Steam, I highly encourage you to download this title and play it to your heart's content, as the appeal within this hidden treasure is very shiny. Shovel Knight is definitely a must-buy, and an early contender for my 2014 Game of the Year. No joke. For today's episode of RRPG Reviews. If you like this episode, then be sure to rate this video as well as leaving your positive and negative feedback down in the comments. Also, if you really did like it, then be sure to hit that subscribe button underneath the video, as more support from you guys will mean that more content is coming from me in the future that you won't even find anywhere else. And until next time, this is RRPG signing out, and I have to get ready for my next review, because the next review, Out of the Shadows, man, I probably should just go back to that depressional state, which I said I was going to get myself in at the beginning of the episode, so I'll catch you next time, guys. So if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go make myself depressed.
Why? They deserve better than this! Why?
Hey everyone, this is RRPG here, and I just wanted to say thank you for watching my newest review. Before I leave you all to go work on the next episode, I just want to say take a look at my last review of Sonic Lost World, as that was a pretty stellar game as this one was. If you are from the future though, then click on the annotation to the right and check out my review of a bad game that I thought would receive better justice over the one I reviewed in 2009. I mean seriously, how can they keep receiving bad games within these past 10 years? They deserve at least one good game out of all of this. Anyway, just go watch it, as I pretty much would go back to the depressional state that I was in at the end of this episode. But either way, more goodness is coming from me in the future, and it's definitely on the way. So until next time, this is RRPG, signing out. Later, good warriors. Oh, God, that was terrible. Never do that again.